all comes down to this. Our college football journey began all the way back in August, and now there are only 2 teams remaining, and only one can be crowned national champions. It's number 2 Washington. It's number 1 Michigan. Both teams undefeated. It's a rivalry renewed, and a championship game that will further ignite that rivalry as both these teams are set to become conference opponents next season. So who will end their championship drought? Will it be Washington winning their first title since 1991? Will it be Michigan winning their first title since 1997? It's the national championship, and we're here to break it down for you right now. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys, here with our final FBS prediction of the year. It really is hard to believe. Number 2 Washington, number 1 Michigan, national title. This game has instant classic written all over it. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks, that holiday special there for you. It's never too early to sign up. It's never too late to sign up. We're hitting over 63% of our bowl bets this season. We're hitting over 65% in our best bet section this season. And if you want to take advantage of those NFL playoff spread picks or just get in on the fun for next season before those prices change, check it out. The link down in the description below over on thegridironexpert.com. You do not want to miss out on that opportunity to become a member of our GE Nation. So let's dive into this game, guys. Again, instant classic written all over it. But before we do that, we got to give you a bit of a backstory, right? We said a rivalry renewed. We said conference opponents, right? Washington, a member of the Pac-12 currently. Michigan, a member of the Big Ten. These 2 teams, guys, will have a national championship rematch on October 5th of this year. October 5th, 2024, Michigan travels to Seattle to take on Washington as the Huskies are set to join the Big Ten along with a handful of their other Pac-12 counterparts. So this is a first of 2 meetings in 2024 between the Wolverines and the Huskies. That's pretty dang exciting already. But you also got to look back at the history. It really is fitting that both these teams are playing each other. The Washington and Michigan guys, they were big-time rivals back in the day. These 2 teams met in 4 Rose Bowls between 1978 and 1993. Both the Huskies and Wolverines winning 2 of those. So a very long and storied history between these 2 historic programs, and now one of them has an opportunity to win their first national championship in a very, very long time. Let's dive into the offense first, and we'll start with Washington. And you know what we're going to say, right? It is the Michael Penix show. This guy is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, really, he can do just about anything. Over 4,600 yards, 35 touchdowns. He absolutely obliterated Texas and their secondary in the Sugar Bowl semifinal with 430 yards and 2 touchdowns, completing over 66.7% of his passes on the year. They have the number 1 passing offense in the country with over 350 passing yards per game. I mean, they have looked practically unstoppable on the offensive side of the ball all season long. Penix is the main reason for that, obviously, but he has a great supporting cast around him. You've got a guy like Rome Odunze, who has over 1,500 reception yards and 13 touchdowns. You got a guy like Jalen Polk, who has over 1,100 reception yards and 9 touchdowns. You know, it's one thing to have one 1,000-yard receiver on your team, but to have 2, that's something that's very uncommon, very difficult to do. That just shows the talent of Penix, but also his pass catchers, their ability to not only get open, not only to deliver, not only to win those 50-50 balls, but the yards after the catch as well, as we've seen time and time again. One big thing for the Huskies in this game is their star running back, Dylan Johnson, is expected to play. Johnson went down with an injury at the end of that Sugar Bowl, ended up stopping the clock, kind of a gift for Texas. Almost gave the Longhorns an opportunity to go on and win the game. But Johnson, banged up, is expected to play, and that's huge so the Huskies aren't entirely one-dimensional. You've got to have some semblance of balance or some semblance of a rushing attack that Michigan has to respect. Because if it wasn't for Johnson, who's rushed for over 1,100 yards and 16 touchdowns, the next man up would have been someone like Will Nixon, who only has 31 carries for 194 yards on the year. That would not strike fear into Michigan. That would not bother Michigan. So while the Huskies certainly do want to throw the ball, certainly if they're going to win this national championship, they're going to do it through Michael Penix. The game will go as he goes. They need Dylan Johnson there. They need him to take a little bit of that weight and pressure off. And the Huskies, guys, phenomenal again offensively. We talked about it yesterday. This is a team, guys, that can beat you like that. The Huskies have 21 scoring drives this year of 2 minutes or less. Against Texas, they had 5 passing plays of 29 yards or more. Michigan only allowed 2 such plays against Alabama in their semifinal matchup. So it's going to be a fun battle between Washington's offense and Michigan's defense, which we'll talk about here shortly. You take a look at Michigan, though. They are the opposite offensively of the Huskies. Look, Washington wants to go fast. They have those big-time chunk plays. They are go, go, go. They're electric. They're, I dare I say, fun to watch. I'm not saying Michigan's not fun to watch, but this is a much slower offense. This is a team that wants to grind it out. They want to wear you down. They are more balanced than Washington, certainly. Over 218 passing yards per game and nearly 160 rushing yards per game, led by Blake Corum, who has over 1,100 yards and 25 touchdowns on the year, breaking that record in overtime against Alabama. J.J. McCarthy, look, he's phenomenal. He's a great quarterback. He's done, as Jim Harbaugh said, he's the best quarterback to come through Michigan program history. Debate that as you will. He has over 2,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions. Had 3 passing touchdowns against Alabama. But like we said, Michigan is not like Washington. They're not a team that wants to go out there and score in 2 minutes. They do, great. But this is a team that has 24 scoring drives of 5 minutes or more. They want to grind it out. They want to bully you up front. They want to have a good mix of run and pass. They're not solely one-dimensional. And if you are Michigan going into this game, if you're Sean Moore, if you're the offensive coordinator for Michigan, you're looking at this game and you're going, we've got to keep that up. We've got to keep up these 5-6 minute long drives, because the longer our offense stays on the field and actually converts, key thing is you've got to score off of those long drives, the longer they're out there, the longer Michael Penix isn't on the field. The longer you can keep Penix off the field, the better, because he is a scoring threat. This Washington offense is a scoring threat every time they touch the ball, regardless of where they are on the field and regardless of how much time is left. So Michigan going to need to go back to that bully ball. They're going to need to find a way to draw out the drives and prevent and limit the amount of possessions that Washington will have offensively. Take a look at the defense. This is where it gets fun. When you look at this battle in the national championship, guys, you can look at all the intangibles. And we actually talked about a handful of those in our videos yesterday. But, what this ultimately comes down to, it's a battle between Washington's offense and Michigan's defense. The offensive styles clash. They're different. That's a cool storyline. But ultimately, it's can Washington's offense go up against this Michigan defense? That's what you're looking at. And you take a look at the Michigan defense. They are the #1 defense in all the land. #1 defense in the country, only allowing 243.1 yards per game. They're giving up just 150 passing yards per game. That is 200 yards per game less than what Washington is averaging. So something's got to give here. Either the Huskies are going to keep dominating like they have all year, or Michigan's defense is going to keep dominating like they have all year. Something's going to give. The Wolverines only giving up 93 rushing yards per game. This is a Michigan team, guys, that held Alabama to 288 total yards in the Rose Bowl. This is the team that held Jalen Milroe to just 116 passing yards in that Rose Bowl game. This is a Michigan team, the most passing yards they've allowed all year was 271 to Ohio State. And even in that game, they had, 2 interceptions off of Kyle McCord? And that was also the only time all season that the Wolverines allowed over 250 passing yards. So they've allowed over 250 one time. That was once to Ohio State in the regular season finale. That's not good if you're Washington. You look at that and you go, wow. But you can also flip it over and say, has Michigan faced an offense like Washington? Ironically, Ohio State is probably the closest offense to Washington that Michigan has seen all year long. Kyle McCord is no Michael Penix, but the receivers that Ohio State had certainly could be in contention with the receivers that Washington has. The speed of Ohio State can certainly be up there with what Washington has. So that's probably the closest offense that Michigan has faced to Washington was Ohio State, and the Wolverines ultimately held their own. But one thing you've got to watch out for here, if you're Michigan, the key for you is to continue that pass rush. The pass rush has been phenomenal for Michigan all year long. 39 sacks on the year. 39 sacks on the year. The way to beat Washington, the way to force mistakes, the way to win this game is to disrupt Michael Penix. He's a guy that will make you pay if he's not under duress. If he gets to stand in the pocket all day long, he will deliver and he won't make mistakes. Texas found that out the hard way. Texas had 0 sacks and only 3 tackles for a loss against Washington. They had no pressure on Michael Penix. They did not force him into mistakes. They didn't force many negative plays. And obviously, Penix torched them for over 400 yards. It was ridiculous. So if you're Michigan, you've got to find a way to disrupt the rhythm. You've got to find a way to slow down Washington. You've got to find a way to flush Penix out of the pocket. Yeah, he can run some. We know that. That's not what he wants to do. Flush him out of the pocket and force him into mistakes, force him into negative plays. Heck, even just force him into incompletion. Stop the clock and slow things down. That's what Michigan has to do. Wolverines had 6 sacks versus Alabama. Washington has allowed just 11 sacks all year long. They've got to find a way to disrupt Penix in the pocket. The run game for Washington is there, but it's not going to be what wins them the game. It's going to be Michael Penix. If you make him struggle, you're looking really good. You look at Washington's defense, though. They are no slouch, and we talked about that yesterday, how they can win this game by forcing teams into mistakes. The Huskies have been phenomenal in forcing mistakes this year. They have forced a turnover in 6 straight games. They have 16 interceptions on the year. Against Texas, they had 2 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss. They dominated up front. They had the better offensive line. They had the better defensive line. Washington was the better team, obviously, across the board in that Sugar Bowl. Michigan's offensive line, no slouch. They've only allowed 19 sacks all year. They only allowed 1 sack against Alabama. So Michigan's offensive line, if they can get that push and create holes for Blake Corum, if they can allow J.J. McCarthy to have time in the pocket, that offense will gel and operate and be as balanced and slow and methodical as they've been all year long. So that's obviously a battle there. The game in the trenches is a major battle to watch here. Michigan's offensive line versus Washington's defensive line and vice versa. The Huskies have allowed over 267 passing yards per game, 137 on the ground. And again, this is a game where I think if you're Washington, you want J.J. McCarthy to have to deliver. You don't want Michigan to have that balance. You want to say, J.J. McCarthy, yeah, I know you had 3 touchdowns against Bama. I know you only have 4 interceptions on the year, so you take relatively good care of the ball. But can you beat us? This defense that forced 2 turnovers against Texas. This defense that knows how to capitalize off of mistakes. And J.J. McCarthy, can you not make mistakes? You look at Michigan, guys. They made a lot of mistakes against Alabama and were fortunate that they didn't lose the game because of it. They nearly threw an interception on the very first play of the game. They missed an extra point. They missed a field goal. They muffed a punt that led to an Alabama touchdown, then muffed another punt late in the fourth quarter that very well could have cost them the game had they not recovered it at the 1-yard line. That ball goes into the end zone. Alabama wins 22-20, maybe even 27-20 with no overtime. Michigan was very fortunate. Alabama really only capitalized off of one of Michigan's mistakes. If Michigan does that again, this Washington defense will capitalize off of it. No doubt about it, because this offense is good enough to do it. And they are better than Alabama's, and they can do it. So that's what the Huskies got to do. Do what you've done all year long. Disrupt. Force turnovers. Force mistakes. And when Michigan inevitably makes a mistake or two, capitalize off of it. That's what you've got to do. So this is, guys, this is going to be a fantastic game. I mean, this is, again, this rivalry renewed, this matchup between the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country, both undefeated, both searching for 15-0, about as dead even as you can get. I mean, this is what you want in a national championship game. The best offense in all the land against the best defense in all the land. This is going to be very, very, very fun and very, very interesting, and truly a game that I could see going either way. And I will say, look, whatever happens, it's probably going to be 10 times better than what we got last year. I'm not envisioning a, 65-7 blowout on either side like we had with Georgia and TCU. This should be a much more competitive game, a much closer game than what we saw. You will not be turning this game off at halftime. At least, I hope not. We have a chance for an instant classic. We have an opportunity to have a great segue into Washington's, entering of the Big Ten. This is going to be the first step of them joining the conference. But ultimately, I think Big Ten, Michigan is going to give them a rude welcome to the Big Ten. I believe Michigan will win the national championship and end their national championship drought. The last 2 years, the Wolverines have fallen just short. They fell to Georgia in the semifinals. They fell to TCU in the semifinals. This year, they get over the hump. All they needed was to get over that hump. I believe had they gotten over those hump in the previous years, they would have won at least one national championship. And now they're here. I picked Michigan to win the title back in the preseason. So before everybody dogs on me, go back, watch the August picks. We picked Michigan to win the title in the preseason. I'm riding with the Wolverines. I'm not changing my pick now. Give me Michigan. Hail to the victor. Big Blue wins the national title. But man, I cannot wait for that rematch later on in October. So there you go, guys. Michigan, Washington, it will be an instant classic, but the Wolverines will prevail for their first title since 1997. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments down in the description below, and let's get ready for a great game in Houston on Monday night. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks, that holiday special there for you. Become a member of our GE Nation, guys, to win big with us. It's never too late. It's never too early to sign up, but take advantage of it now before those prices change. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.